she talking to now? What is she up to next? Where in the world will she be?
Welcome to another exciting episode of Talk2SV.
Set in motion in 1915 by acclaimed historian Carter G. Woodson, this celebration of accomplishment began as Negro History Week. As time passed, momentum gathered and support increased. Many years later, in 1976, February was designated as Black History Month. We are honored to salute local, national, and global figures whose accomplishments we celebrate. Black history is American history.
Talk2SV. Black History Month salutes are brought to you by
Who is she talking to now? What is she up to next? Where in the world will she be? Talk2SV.
February is Black History Month. All month long, we will celebrate historical figures of the past and present.
Happy day. Happy day. Happy day. Oh, happy day. Oh, happy day.
I remember when the song came out, and I can't believe 40 years have passed. How does it feel to you?
It doesn't feel like 40 years have passed. That's a lot of time. It just shows how God can keep you. You know, that's the beauty of it all. We're still traveling, still making music, just not as young as we used to be.
Oh, say that twice. It is so true. And when you talk about not as young as we once were, that was one of the things that I do remember at the time that the song was released. I was a young person, and of course, we loved the sound of it. We loved the beat, the beat of it. But of course, there were older adults who thought perhaps they shouldn't belong in the church. What challenges did you face when you released that song?
There were many negative challenges that really came from the church and pastors and some of the older people in the church that thought it was a little worldly sounding. They thought it was a little bit too bluesy, too jazzy. It's amazing how we change as humans, because thank God, He never changes. Because the song now is considered traditional, and it was traditional before, But that's the changes that we go through as humans. It was forbidden in many churches. I've heard stories of pastors forbidding the choirs to sing the song, that arrangement, and it was an old hymn that I recreated. So it's just some strange things going on.
Now, while we're talking about the 40th anniversary of Oh Happy Day, you have an illustrious career that goes well beyond this one song. Could you just give our viewers an overview of your career and what God has blessed you to do?
Many things. I don't think the time would allow us to, but let me see if I can highlight some things really quickly. Probably the very first thing that I remember is on our very first tour, on our way to New York, we did, there was an outdoor festival, rock festival, which was sort of like a Woodstock, but it was in Downey, California. And we sang there on our way to New York. In fact, we went to stage and we performed, then went to the airport, and then we went to New York. And the big thing that we did there was Yankee Stadium for the Isley Brothers.
Really?
And,
you opened for the Isley Brothers?
It was their 20th anniversary.
Wow.
And then from that, we did think it was Dick Cavett show, which was one of the night shows that was on, like the Letterman show is now. We did like all the major television night shows and talk shows. Then we went to Caesar's Palace, played in the main room for like 5 weeks with the Smothers Brothers. So that's just a few things. And of course, we did some things like the symphonies. The National Symphony we did twice in Washington, D.C. We did the Oakland Symphony twice. We've done the Boston Pops a couple of times. So it's been quite something.
Now, when you talk about the diversity and the variety of a kind of performing venues that you, of course, sang in, it seems, were doing crossover long before people caught on to what crossover was. Talk about that in the environment 30, 40, 50 years ago.
Well, I think it was a platform that God, of course, set the stage for, and He had to choose somebody. When I think about chosen stuff, I always think about, and this has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I have to go here for a second. The Jews who think that they're special because they were chosen, God had to choose somebody to teach the world and human race how to live, to give His laws through a group of people, so He chose the Jews. Doesn't mean that they're special or better. He could have chose the Chinese, but He didn't. He just happened to choose the Jews. So I think that I was just one that was chosen for that time. If it hadn't been Edwin, thank God it was Edwin, it would have been somebody else to do what happened with that song, to take the gospel message into a different genre, among a different group of people, into another part of the world. And we were always taught in the church that you should take the gospel message into the world, go into the highways and hedges. And once we started to do that, then we were criticized. So as young people, we were very, very confused about what they had taught. But it really made me look at the Bible again and find out for myself what God was saying. And there I found my ministry, because at first it was not a ministry going into gospel music. It was just a hit that happened. We had an opportunity to travel and to make a record. But it later became a ministry. And it's been a challenging ministry, but I wouldn't trade anything for what I've learned over the years.
Now, when you talk about this ministry that has taken you all over the world, you are now launching the Hope for the World tour.
Yes.
Talk about that and what that means and what we can expect from this tour.
This is something that came about during the midst of our president now, his campaign. We had talked about doing a tour around 40 years of Oh Happy Day. And in the midst of his campaign, of course, the economy crashed, and I would think I was in Europe when all of that was taking place, and I saw it taking effect in Europe. And on the return of home, we started to revamp and look at it again, and I really felt inspired by God to do something in the midst of each concert. Is how we came up with the title Hope for the World, because there is hope. Sure. And I think often we think it's going to be in some man, and it's not in man. God uses man, but it's not in the man. So we thought we'd take out a few minutes and have just a brief ceremony in every concert, have the pastors, spiritual leaders in each city come on stage and take a few minutes and pray for our president, for the UN, for the military, and for the leaders around the world. We're instructed to do that as believers. The Bible says we should pray for those that are in authority, for the rulers and for those that are in authority all over the world. And I think if we start to do this, we'll start to see some change. But the people of God have got to be the ones to cause that change to come about through prayer. There is power in prayer, and that if we believe what we pray about, put faith and prayer together, we'll see some change.
Now, if you were to liken the kind of change that your music has had on audiences all over the world, you could sort of liken it to the kind of change that the world has embraced with our current president, Barack Obama. Having said that, what are your experiences like abroad versus those here in the United States?
Well, it's a little bit different. I think here in the U.S., I try not to think of myself as a celebrity or somebody that's special, but the difference between America and Europe, when you have had some success in the music business, you're always respected and treated as a celebrity. Here in America, unless you have something in the top 10 or top 40, they kind of put you aside until you do another hit. Then they ignore you again until you get it in. Right. So that's the difference. I think there's a different kind of an appreciation in Europe as an artist than here in America. But it's okay. Kind of helps balance you out, so you don't think that you're somebody special.
You've had the unique opportunity to sit in your seat for years and be able to operate at a certain level. You've seen artists come and go. What comment do you have about today's platform of gospel music and where you think it has differed over the years by comparison to when you entered?
Well, I would compare it to, I guess, we're all influenced by the other, I think. And as the music has kind of changed over the years, we're more tolerant of the hip hop and the rap music in the church, whereas before we were not. Which I think is a good thing, because young people need to understand they can be young and still have a relationship with God. They criticize us for what we did, because I think some of them weren't able to be youthful, growing up, some of the older people. And when we decided we wanted to do that, we rebelled and just, wanted to do what we wanted to do. And we did that. Thank God for the good foundation that we got in the church. But I think it's important that we do allow our young people to be who they are, but teach them the foundation of who they are and who God is, and that they can maintain a relationship with Jesus Christ. I think we'll keep them in the church as opposed to forcing them away, as some of us rebelled. Thank God he had hold of my life and I didn't go too far away, but I did rebel. And what kept me was that when we traveled years ago, we made a point of coming together every day for prayer and inspiration, reading the Bible, and having inspirational time together. Because I didn't go to church for like about a 2-year period, because I was rebelling. And we, I don't think it's as severe today with our young people. They feel that they can do basically what they want to do. I think with the teaching of righteous living, is important. But allow people to be who they are, because they're going to be human anyway. But with some instruction from the people of God, or from, I think sometimes our parents are not raising our children anymore. They're just allowing them to do whatever they want to do. But I think it's important that we give them some good guidance.
Talk2SV Black History Month salutes are brought to you by Serlene Grant, Reverend Cheryl Ward, Pamela Ratcliffe, Patricia A. Saunders, Micah Montgomery, James Moore.
Where in the world will she be? Talk2SV. You just might be inspired. I know you're gonna.
Talk2SV covers entertainment and lifestyle, new, upcoming movies, and current events.
Where are the members of the group today? The members that first started with you?
I have no idea. Actually, some of my family members are still there, and some good friends are still there. And many of them are gone. I am not in contact with some of them at all.
How does that make you feel?
I'm not sure. I think that lives change, and some people you stay in touch with and others you don't. And I've learned to accept that. They're still in my heart, but some you just don't see anymore.
Now, you hold 4 Grammy Awards, and Lord knows a host of other accolades and honors. What are your priorities today?
Priorities. I guess that I can still inspire people, that I can still give good encouragement. I think it's important that we encourage each other, that we find good things to say to people and not tear them down. I thank God for my mother teaching us, how to love and how to care for each other. So I got a lot of that from her. So I think it's important that we, as sisters and brothers, not just our families, but church members and friends, that we spend time, encouraging them and being positive about life.
So many artists, particularly in the gospel arena, have such deference for you and such respect for you. And of course, your music has been sampled. What artist do you think come close to the kind of music that you deliver? And what artist do you listen to?
I listen to all of them, all the gospel artists. I guess I don't want to start calling favorites, but I have to mention Richard Smallwood, Donald Lawrence, Yolanda Adams, the Clark sisters. I listen to everybody on down to Kiki, who is Karen Clark's daughter, you know her, and then of course I listen to a lot of secular music as well, as I've always done. I think the combination of that and my creating has come from the genres, the two different genres, secular as well as gospel, because my mother brought everybody when we were growing up from Thomas Dorsey, Mahalia Jackson, and Caravan, so we heard all of that. And then her brother was a jazz musician, so we heard jazz in our home. Her sister, her youngest sister, lived with us while she was in college, so we heard pop music like Perry Como, Nat King Cole. So I was able to pull from all of that when I began to write.
Now, one thing I've noticed about you over the years is you have a very healthy way of living, and you look amazing. Talk about your lifestyle and how, yes, God has preserved you, but there's some things that you do. I mean, you eat well. I mean,
How do you know that?
because I've observed you over the years.
Okay.
You never know who's watching.
Right.
So could you just talk about the way you live and how you've been able to commit to a healthy lifestyle?
I contribute that mainly to my father. We grew up in West Oakland in Campbell Village in the projects. And my father, coming from the South, I guess he was raised that way. He was always very, very health conscious and did not buy white bread. I don't know if you remember how gummy white bread, you could ball it up in the hand. He said it had preservative. He was way ahead of his time. We had very little yard in the projects, but he grew seasonal vegetables. So we always had fresh vegetables. We were made to eat our vegetables. If you didn't eat your vegetables, you can't have dessert. So I learned to like all kinds of vegetables. And then once we kind of grew up and started this music career, I think through my first professional managers, I met a couple, an artist. One was an artist. The wife was an artist. The husband was an actor, Vince Cannon, and Artist Lane, who is a noted. Yeah. You have met her? Yeah, she's amazing. They convinced me to try to become a vegetarian. So I did it for 5 years in the early 70s, and it wasn't so easy to do that as we began traveling. While I was at home between San Francisco, Oakland, and LA, I could do that. Once we began traveling, it was just not a trend anyplace else but California. So it got very boring trying to go other places, and I had to do frozen vegetables or just a salad. So I went back to meat.
Okay.
But I never cared for beef anyway, so it's not a health thing. I just don't like beef. Give me seafood and chicken, and I'm fine. I'll eat that every day, plus my vegetables. And, of course, I do the nutrients that I know are good for you that we must have, that our body stops producing after a while.
Finally, what would you like for audiences to know about your music, the gift you've been to the world, and how we can continue as a community to celebrate life through gospel music?
Wow. You said a mouthful there, or you asked a mouthful. I think in our communities, if, I guess it was just yesterday we were looking at some of the tragedies that happen in our schools and just on the street, the drive-bys and that kind of thing. And I'm sure a lot of it comes from the lack of nurturing our children. So many of them grow up without direction or love or care or anyone, trying to guide them. So you have children that are going for themselves. I mean, there are even homeless kids. They even show up in school every day. But I think if you hear people talk about it takes a community to raise a child,
Yes.
If we could really do that and go into our schools and find those kids that are not being nurtured, not being cared for, and do that, I think it would make a great difference. As I drive through areas of Oakland or any area where the black communities, you go by any liquor store, and it looks like the same guys hanging at the corner store as they were when I was a kid. That vicious cycle of young men wasting their lives. We have the majority of the prison numbers. It's the biggest of our people,
Yes.
the blacks. And we're just not doing enough. We talk a lot, and I'm guilty of it too. but it takes one person cannot do it. If we could all get together, bring our ideas together, I think sometimes the person who with this idea, that idea wants to be the one that said I did this, as opposed to coming together, getting the job done. And I don't know how to stop that. I just wish that we could, the leaders, those of us that talk about it, could really come together and make a change. But a lot of our young people are just angry, and they don't really understand why they're angry. So they take that anger out. I think it was a thing on the news yesterday where one school had new students coming in of their own race, and they were beating these kids to death. I don't know if you heard about that. It was on the news just a couple of days ago. Really sad. You know, why are they so angry? I mean, to kill somebody, teenagers. You know, what do you do with that?
My hope is that the Hope for the World Tour will tap into the hope that we need as a community and help us bring that love and that spirit back together.
Well, it has to be more than just music. I think the musicians can help, singers can help, the ideas of Hope for the World can help, but I think it's going to take all those different facets, all those different ideas coming together and doing what needs to be done. If we could start wherever they want to start, you know, I want to be a part of that. But I think that it's going to take more than us just having faith, speaking faith, and praying. But once we finish praying, get off our knees and start to do. Bible teaches faith without works is dead. So if we're just talking about it and not doing anything, then it's in vain.
Thank you very, very much. It was wonderful talking with you.
Talk2SV Black History Month salutes are brought to you by Sirlene Grant, Reverend Cheryl Ward, Pamela Ratcliffe, Patricia A. Saunders, Micah Montgomery, James Moore.
Where in the world will she be? Talk to SV. You just might be inspired. I know you're gonna.
Talk2SV covers entertainment and lifestyle, new, upcoming movies, and current events.
When Jesus wore, oh, when he wore, when Jesus wore, washed my sins away. Oh, happy day, 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 oh, happy day. Jesus wore, oh, when he wore, when Jesus wore, washed my sins away, Lord. Oh, it's a happy day. He taught me
Talk2SV Black History Month salutes are brought to you by Sirlene Grant, Reverend Cheryl Ward, Pamela Ratcliffe, Patricia A. Saunders, Micah Montgomery, James Moore.
Who is she talking to now? What is she up to next? Where in the world will she be?
Talk2SV covers entertainment and lifestyle, new, upcoming movies, and current events.
My name is Tanya Pinkins, and I am wearing a Time's Up shirt, which is black. Why we wear black is because we stand in solidarity, linked arm in arm with women and men around the globe who are saying time's up to gender inequity and abuse of power, and we raise up the names of the women who have found their voices to speak their truth. Olivia Munn, Roseanne Arquette, Rose McGowan, Salma Hayek, many more women, Lupita Nyong'o, and for every woman that I could list, there are as many women who are still silently traumatized. But time's up. We are claiming our voices, we are speaking our truth, and we are leading a movement to change the world. Stand with us. Time's up.
Tragedies are commonplace. All kinds of diseases, people are slipping away. The economy's down, people can't get enough pay.